Hi there. Happy Tuesday. For those of you that do follow my emails or these videos, you'll know I've been MIA for a little bit. Went on vacation for spring break. Caught a lovely bug and still kind of dealing with it, which brought me to today's topic. So I'll try and make it quick so that I'm not coughing at you while I'm going through this. But knowing when good enough is, in fact, good enough. So just a little intro to this is I still kind of, the recovering perfectionist in me used to say when I was the perfectionist full time, never took that as something legitimate, that good enough is good enough. It had to be extreme. It had to be the best. It had to be above and beyond in order to be even considered tolerable. And so, yes, I've learned how to find that balance, because also if good enough is always good enough, that kind of takes away our ability to grow and stretch and learn and reach huge heights, bigger than we can imagine from where we currently stand. Good enough keeps us where we are. Good enough keeps us on a level space, which, again, if that's within your value set, if good enough, if consistency is something that you value, if comfort is something you value, if wanting to, if growth isn't within your value set, this isn't necessarily for you. This is for those of us that do have this growth, excitement, longing for bigger, longing for more, longing for that next step, that next growth step, that we know that living in good enough won't necessarily push us to that greater level. But the perfectionism of only reaching for the extreme is not sustainable either. So how do we know, Nancy? How do we know when good enough is good enough? And that does take some reflection. So the first thing to do is take some inventory of yourself, take some inventory of your body and your energy. As you can probably tell, both of those things are very low for me still these 2 weeks later. And so it's important to have acceptance around. Take the time and take an inventory of where your body is physically, emotionally, where the energy level is. What is the reality of where you currently are? Yes, sometimes exterior factors do come into play. And so we want to make sure that we are in a place of radical acceptance when those outside forces do come in and alter the way that we are able to show up in the world, either by sickness or, other things like loss and dealing with those types of things. So really take some time and take an inventory of your body, your emotions, your energy level, all of those things. That's going to be super important. Now, the second step here, though, is noticing which emotions pop up for you when you're doing this self-investigation and challenging those emotions. Let's make sure that those emotions are, in fact, valid and real. And the way that we do that is by attaching them to tangible, measurable proof that those emotions are, in fact, real and valid, and they're not bringing in. A few weeks or a few videos back, we talked about, excuse me. We talked about the emotional, and now I'm going to forget the name of it, but when our emotions tell us how to think, emotional reasoning. Thank you. Brain fog is real. Emotional reasoning. We want to make sure that that's not at play here, that we do challenge these emotions. Yes, our emotions are real. They are valid. They hit us, that on all this kinds of things. But these types of emotions, they also sometimes are coming from a lesson we learned very early in life, which is no longer relevant in your life. So it's time to investigate your emotions. Make sure that you know the difference between, intuition or, some type of, energetic sign, or is it emotional reasoning? Let's look at some tangible, measurable proof to see if there is some backing up of these emotions so that we can tell, is it something that is valid, Or are we leaning back on this emotional reasoning and giving ourselves excuses to either push harder than we should or not push at all? So we want to make sure that we're really tapping into and grounding these emotions to make sure that they are in fact valid and they're not just ghosts from the past popping up and we're blindly following them. And then the third step in all of this is give yourself a deadline to try again. If you do find that, good enough simply is good enough for you currently, that your body and your energy and your grounded emotions all say, it's time for a break. It's time to stop pushing for a bit. It is time to either recuperate or relax or just have some fun for a while, or whatever those things are that are telling you it is time to declare that good enough simply is good enough. Let's then give ourselves a deadline. Then you can fully relax into the good enough, fully relax into it, knowing that when that deadline hits a week from now, a month from now, whatever that is for you, that then you'll do this assessment all over again and see how you're doing and see if it's time to ramp it back up and search for and move towards excellence, versus this more leveled off way of being when we're looking at good enough is good enough. So again, those 3 steps of knowing, is it time to declare good enough is good enough? Take an inventory of your body and your energy, where it realistically is right now. Take a deeper look into those emotions that are within that body and energy, and really grounding them, making sure that they are valid as well, and they're not just old ghosts popping back up, holding you back from taking real action. And the third is give yourself a deadline. If you do decide that good enough is good enough for right now, give yourself a deadline and a time to reevaluate this and see when it's time to ramp back up again. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Bring them out. I'd love to see you at tonight's meditation. If you're open to that, see the link below to join us tonight at 6:30 Eastern. And I'll see you next week.